welcome back. This is going to be Section 3 review. I'm going to use question set 1, which I'm going to make available on EDSB. This is question set 1. Again, I'm going to use question set 1, which is available on EDSB. For this, I'm going to go through all these problems on the first page. Then I'm going to go ahead and make a second video to show the changes of unemployment rate and labor force participation rate and all those calculations. So going through this quickly, again, remember to pause and do it on your own to make sure you can do this. And most of these I'm going to walk through fairly quickly. So number 1, drawing and labeling a circular flow diagram with the 4 main components. Beneath the diagram, you list examples of inflows and outflows. Now remember, we're only going to draw the simple diagram online. Or in your textbook, there's a much more complex diagram that includes government and international transactions. Knowing the simple one and being able to draw the simple one is going to be important. Understanding the government's role is also important, but we'll touch on that a little bit more later. So first off, let's talk about circular flow. You should immediately draw and be able to label your 4 components. Your 4 components of circular flow, the top being households, and these are the people. The bottom is going to be firms and businesses. So now we're saying what's the flow between the households and the firms or businesses. This flow takes place in these 2 markets. One market being what we call the factor or resource market. The other is the product or goods and services market. So what households are going to do is households are going to give resources to the factor market. So this is going to be the flow of resources or factors. I guess we would call it the resource market, which resources, factors, that's just different verbiage. And then the factor market is going to give these factors or resources to the firms. The firms then use these resources, and remember these resources include labor, which is paid for in wages, land or property, which is paid for in rent, entrepreneurship, which is paid for in profit, and then capital, money for investment, which has been paid for in interest. So these resources go to firms. Firms use these resources to make goods and services, and they sell those goods and services in the product market, which it's easier to conceptualize because we know we go into product markets. And these goods and services are then transferred to households. So the first flow is just the flow of factors and then products. And then the second flow, that says goods and services, if you can't read that. The second flow then is, okay, what's happening then with the money? Firms are paying money into the factor market because the factor market is where they're paying for those factors and resources from households. Households are then sending that money back through the product market. So what this basically demonstrates is that money is the intermediary, is the source used to pay households who then put that money back into firms through the products and goods and services. So being able to do this and label is extremely important. So moving on from that to GDP calculations, which would be real and nominal GDP. What I would like you to do is take a second and go ahead and calculate the nominal and the real GDP for each year. Okay, so to do that, we're now going to find, remember, nominal is always price tag. So nominal is easy. You're just going to go straight across. So nominal for the year 2013, nominal for the year 2013 is going to be 4,000 times 20, which is 80,000 attributed to cars. And then you're going to have 600 times 40, which is going to be 24,000 attributed to computers, which is going to give us $104,000 nominal GDP 2013. Now, we use 2013 prices to calculate 2013 GDP. Now in 2014, we're going to have 5,000 dollars per car with 25 cars sold, so we're going to have 125,000 attributed to cars. So 125,000 is going to be attributed to cars here. And then we're going to have 800 times 40, which is going to be 32,000 attributed to computers. You add those together, we have a nominal GDP of 157. And in the last year, it looks like we're going to have 30 times 50, so we're going to have 150,000. 30 times $5,000. We have some fairly cheap cars here. And then we're going to have 35,000, 50 times 700. So we're going to have 185,000 as nominal GDP in 2015. Nominal, again, price tags, price times quantity. So if you're someone who is more inclined to use a formula, nominal equals actual price times actual quantity. Now, real, then, is going to equal base price times actual quantity. So remember, real, we're trying to say if there is no change in price level. So if there's no change in price level, price stays the same as the base year. But quantity, which represents the production of the economy, is what's going to change. So if we look through here, we're now always going to use 2013 as our base. It'll always tell you what base. I'm going to tell you use 2013. So remember, real and nominal GDP is exactly the same in the base year. Mathematically, if you use this equation, it's going to work out. So in 2015, remember, we now sold 25 cars, which is an increase in production, but we're only going to attribute the 4,000, so that would be $100,000 is going to be, so in 2014, we're going to say cars is 25 units times 4,000, which is our base price, equals 100,000. And then we have 40 times 600, which we know is going to be 24,000. Remember, we had no change in production, so that's why it's the same. So then we know that our real GDP was 124,000, which I ran out of room, but it's 100 plus 24. 2015, 30 times 4,000, actual times base, equals 120,000. And then we have 50 times 6, which is 30,000, which is going to give us a real GDP of 150,000. So that's how you calculate the difference between real and nominal GDP. If they ask you percent change, what's the percent change? Percent change is the same equation we've always used. It's the change divided by the base. So if we say what's the percent change in real GDP from 2014 to 2015, we would simply say the change over the base, which is going to equal 150 minus 124. I cut off the zeros for simplicity here. Over 124, which is going to equal 26 over 124, which is going to equal, it's about 20%. It's 0.209, so about 0.21 or a 21% change. Now, that is not inflation, that's just the change in GDP. Remember, inflation is a change in price level, the equation's the same. Inflation is just a specific example of percent change. Okay, moving on now to a totally different concept. We're going to go into drawing the graph of the labor market. We're actually going to make that, I'm going to make that into a separate video. So I'm going to make that one into a separate video.